Alrighty, so news of the week episode on this Wednesday afternoon, and let's jump straight in to talk about this free team blockbuster move that's been talked about pretty much for the last week or so, and that it just happened to be that Tom Boger just had to break news about the Lucho Acosta Evander and also the Timbers potentially signing a number 10 to replace Evander news right after when I finished doing the season preview of the Portland Timbers. Like literally after I upload that video, that's when the news, of course, break through. And yes, so much for those three big question that I asked about the team. Looks like the number one question for the Portland Timbers in that season preview was answered relatively quick. But yeah, we knew that the dominoes was gonna fall once Lucho Acosta eventually complete his move with FC Dallas, and that was gonna be fall with them signing Evander. Well, at least one move has actually made official, and the one that is official is Cincinnati trading Lucho Acosta to FC Dallas for up to $6 million cash and also add on as well. Now, the original price is actually $5 million, but there is an extra million depending on performance incentives as well. And then, of course, we know that they are actually pretty close in terms of signing Evander from the Portland Timbers as well. Even though the club hasn't announced yet, it's pretty much all but done according to Tom Bogert, and that also led to the situation with the Portland Timbers replacing Evander as well. And this deal I mentioned for in yesterday's season preview about the Timbers. This has been a deal that they've been waiting for a while, where they're going to bring in the Costa from RC Lons. In fact, they were pretty much almost waiting for the medical to about to begin once the dominoes start to fall with Evander going to FC Cincinnati, and indeed, that seems like it's going to be the case that they are going to sign to Costa from RC Lons, and indeed made him a DP deal. So yeah, all in all, we knew this was going to happen. We knew as soon as the Lucho Acosta situation was going to resort, the dominoes was going to start to fall in terms of other teams that started to make some signings, and then so forth and so forth, and that overall it's going to be interesting to see how things are going to go. I mean, I think heading into this season, there's no doubt that after watching such a blockbuster move involving three teams heading into this season, it's going to be interesting to see who, of course, got the better deal out of that. Is it for Dallas getting Lucho Acosta, a perfect replacement for Alan Velasco? That's some might say. I say it's a perfect replacement, but it depends on whether or not now that Lucho Acosta got his wish, whether if he's gonna live up to his bargain, and the same goes for Evander as well. Evander got his wish of moving away from the Portland Timbers, but now he's basically joining a team that Lucho Acosta moved away from because of some of this grunt toward the front office. We'll see how that deal, of course, would turn out. And then most importantly for the Portland Timbers, losing Evander obviously is very very tough. But from what I heard about this DaCosta guy, it seems like he is really decent, and he could be just as a decent replacement for Evander, and probably the best replacement they could get for Evander as they could. But it will be all depends on how each of these number 10 is going to perform. And again, that's the craziness that we seen this offseason. I mean, this offseason there's been a lot of blockbuster move, and again, a big part of that is mainly because of the new rule with the player trade by cash consideration. That if this was still under the move where you have to trade general allocation money to do so, these moves wouldn't have come true. But it's great to see that eventually the saga of both Lucho Acosta and Evander has finally come to a close, and now let's see whether or not if they can make a big impact for their team heading into this season. Now, moving on in terms of other signings that's happened. So, despite the fact that the big news is in regards to those three teams, there were definitely other signings that has happened in the past couple of days, starting with Nashville SC, who today signed midfielder Matthew Cochran from Birmingham Legion. Now, I'm assuming he's probably going to be used more of it as a depth piece because, anytime when you sign someone from the USL Championship, you usually use them as depth piece. And there are some hidden gems out there in the USL Championship, especially a young player like Matthew Cochran, who is actually a former U.S. youth national team player. That could be good depth for this Nashville team, especially with their midfield. Speaking of midfield, Minnesota United also signed a midfielder as well in Owen Jean from Amiens. Now, this one has also been in work for a while, and as a fan of the Loons that have followed this team very closely, this was pretty much all but announced a couple of days ago when Owen Jean decided to leave his uh, former team and decided to come to Minnesota and complete the paperwork. And I'm very excited to see how he's going to do with this team. I'm assuming he's probably going to be a starter because, again, coming into this offseason, the big question with this Loons team is can they find a DP number six? Well, they didn't really quite get a DP number six. They got a U22 initiative number six as well in Owen Jean. And, there's a lot of expectation. He's going to have to live up for it. From what I also heard from at least from some French fans, they said that he's a very decent player, has some lots of promise as well. So this could be a case where yes, I would love to see a DP number six and a guy that has been proven to be decent even coming into a new league. Um, to be the proper replacement for the biggest need that this team has had. But I also wouldn't mind getting a U22 initiative number six that again it seems like he has a lot of potential and he could be the answer in terms of fixing the biggest need that this Loons team need heading into this off season. That is. Now, the Vancouver Whitecaps, yes, they actually have signed a player. I mean, it's been a very quiet off season for the Whitecaps, and not in a good way considering that, with all the question mark about the ownership of this team and whether they can get the sale of this team because that pretty much means that they have stand pat for the off season, even though they clearly need some upgrades to get them to the next level. But they did sign Emmanuel Sabi from Le Havre, a forward coming out of a league club. Now, from what I have seen in terms of what Whitecaps have said, they've been a little bit underwhelmed when it comes to the signing. I mean, they said that they're happy that at least this front office is signing somebody because considering that again, with them potentially selling the team in the near future, it looks like they're probably just not even gonna bother signing anyone. But we'll see whether or not if he can fit well, and especially Whitecaps fans are very underwhelmed in terms of the signing, mainly because Ford is not really a spot that they really need going forward unless it's for depth reason, and not to mention his numbers during his time with Lahar isn't considered to be that good, but we'll see how he's going to do now. He's with the Vancouver Whitecaps. Now, Orlando City has officially completed the signing of Edouard Atuesta off of free agency. By the way, Minnesota was actually looking to trying to get Edouard Atuesta as well, and I know that he was definitely not as good as he was doing his first stint with LAFC. It just feels like he never really work well in the Steve Cherundolo system, unlike the Bob Bradley system doing his first hit with LAFC. But he's still a proven decent number six in this league, and Orlando City desperately need one of those guys, especially what's going to happen with Cesar Arujo. It seems like he could be on his way out relatively soon, probably as soon as this summer transfer window that is. It seems like this is probably the replacement that they, of course, have it ready in wing. And again, Atuesta, if he can rediscover that good form that he had with LAFC a couple of years ago, yeah, I think this is going to be a really good signing for Orlando City. And again, a signing that, going back to talk about Minnesota signing Owen Jean, I mean, I am a little bit optimistic that this is a good signing. But at the same time, when I saw how Minnesota was potentially linked with Atuesta, I would have actually prefer Atuesta than Owen Jean. And obviously, I know this hot take won't come back to bite me when Owen Jean turns out to be a very decent player for this Minnesota team, and Atuesta kind of struggle once again with Orlando City. But Atuesta is a more proven player to be a proven MLS talent in that position. And as I said before, I'd rather decide to put a proven number six player rather than a prospect player that could do very well and a young player that could do very well in this league, or it could end up to be a bit of a disastrous signing. Now, moving on in terms of the next news, and speaking of LAFC, now talking about some transfer rumors. So, Gremio is actually close to sign LAFC winger Kike Oliveira for $4.5 million and a big sell on clause. Now, this is not a big surprise because it is pretty clear that Kike Oliveira wants his way out of LAFC. He was not included in the starting 11 or even in the lineup against Club America yesterday in the friendly, and there's been multiple times that he says that he want out. He wanted to either go back to South America or even make push a move to Europe. Well, seems like he has got his wish of pushing a move at least to South America and going to Gremio. And again, $4.5 million. That's a decent price, but the big sell on clause that is going to be something that could be very enticing for LAFC because again, if he turns out to do well with Gremio and Gremio was able to sell him off for a huge amount of money to Europe, LAFC can get a huge amount of sell on fees as a result of it. Though that being said, losing the likes of Kike Oliveira, who I really think he's kind of almost like a what if player for this LAFC team. And the reason why I say that is because I feel like the talent is definitely there for him. But the reason why I say it's a what if is because he could have definitely done much better with this team that than it is suggests. I mean, when you look at the numbers that he has, it would have been so much better if he could actually put the ball into the back of net and show that clinical finishing. That was one of the biggest weakness I would say about his game, where there's been times where he was just absolutely sniping going forward on the attack. But the moves that he makes and the way he gets himself in those positions to score goals, that's absolutely exceptional. And again, going back to what I said about his this grunto of him not want to play with this team, want to make a move to a bigger club, or potentially going back to South America again. LAFC had no choice; they had to let him go and accept this deal as well, or at least very close to accepting this deal. Now, the Philadelphia Union, they are in advanced talk to sign Uruguayan youth international forward Bruno Demani from Nacional. Now, this is kind of an interesting one considering that, again, it seems like the Union is trying to booster the attack again. I mean, the attack is already really good. I already mentioned about the front three of this team. This front three is pretty decent as well. And despite the dismantle of the core that they have had in the last couple of years, the front three is pretty much almost the same. I mean, minus Julian Carranza, it's pretty much the same with Daniel Gasta, Mikael Uru, and also Tyber Rebo, the player that just kind of came out of nowhere to do very well last season. Uh, make up the new free-headed monster that this Union team has on the attacking end, but they do add this player from what I heard. He's a very talented player as well. I think that does makes you think that maybe the Union, when it comes to this rebuild that they're going through, it might be shorter than what people have said. If and I think this is also a move to kind of show to the fans of the Union that yeah, the front office is actually going to try to make some move to kind of soften the disgruntle that is going on with the Union fan base. A lot of Union fans have been very frustrated in terms of the lack of signing and the lack of progress that this team seems to be going with this rebuild that they have. And I think this front office probably took no, or at least Tanner, Ernest Tanner kind of took note too, because lately the Union has been more active when it comes to the transfer window, and now we'll see whether or not if this new core that they're generating could be just as good as what we saw in previous year under Jim Curtin. Now, Nashville, they are also looking to finalizing a deal to sign Swedish youth international Ahmed Kwasam from Elfsborg IF. Now, this is not a big surprise that Nashville is looking for a winger. That is one of the spots that they really needed. And when you look at this Nashville team, we know the defense is the strength of this team at time. Even though last season it kind of took a bit of a dip. But the big question I would always say about this national team is on the attacking end, and that's even when they have some superstar guy like Hani Mukhtar and even Sam Surge, if he can consistently show in the goal scoring. And as I said, that's kind of the problem with this Nashville team. Sam Surge very inconsistent last season when it comes to goal scoring, and the same goes for Hani Mukhtar as well. There was a long period of time where Hani Mukhtar basically disappear, and we'll see whether if he can rediscover the form that he has. Because if Hani Mukhtar can go back to the form that he was in 2022, that MVP form, there's no doubt this national team could look decent, and it really raised the floor of this team. But it also doesn't help. It also doesn't hurt the fact that they are bringing in another winger that again is one of the spots that they desperately needed as well, especially with Tyler Boyd still out with a long term injury, and we'll see whether or not if he can this guy will be a good fit for this Nashville team. Now, moving on, in terms of talk about news that's not related to signings and transfer rumors. So, first of all, Steven Beitashour, he says that he's going to be returning to TFC coaching staff as an assistant head coach. So, I'm not a big surprise by that because Steven Beitashour, doing his career, he's always considered to be a good leader, and he definitely has that material to join in the coaching reign. Though he is joining a team that is definitely in in the beginning of a stage of a really long and painful rebuild as this Toronto FC team is going through. I've even mentioned how last season they showed some progress in terms of that rebuild, and then now it's all gone because John Herman left this team kind of in disgrace in a way, and now there's a lot of question when it comes to the roster, and especially the two Italians is still with this team right now, and as long as they're still with this team, I mean, I know last year Benedeschi definitely played much better compared to previous year. Insigne, not so much. He's still kind of at times being injured and also caused some problem with the locker room. I really think until those two Italians is gone, I don't think TFC is going to make that much progress in terms of this deep rebuild, and especially as much as I know Roman Fraser did very well for the Rapids a couple of years ago, and now the head coach of this team. I do think that it is definitely a bit of a downgrade compared to what John Herman can offer to this team. But there's no doubt that I think this team, if they can just get rid of the two Italians, and I think they have one more year left, or actually 2 more years left in terms of the contract because they're both of those guys' contract is done in 2026. Or if they can just exercise a buyout of at least one of those Italians, then things could go well for this TFC team. But certainly going back to Steven Bayershore, I wish him the best luck in terms of joining this disaster of a team, and that it's going to take time before this team is going to be back to being one of the top elite team in the Eastern Conference. It's been a huge fall from grace from this TFC side, and a big part of that is because the last regime made so many mistakes that really held this team back and really set this team back from years, and now they're just beginning to clean up those mistakes and trying to get themselves build a brand new core to get themselves back to being a competitive team in the East. And then moving on in the next news, it's some bad news to Galaxy fans. So LA Galaxy winger Josep Painto looks like he could be out 6 to 8 weeks in the beginning of the season with a quad injury. And this not only is a bad news for the Galaxy, but this is a huge blow for the Galaxy. I mean, they already are not going to have Ricky Puig heading into this season, at least for majority of the season. That is, as he's still recovering from the torn ACL. But now you lose another part of that killer P in Josep Painto. I mean, Gabriel Peck's gonna have a lot a way to carry this team. I mean, I will say that they do have some replacement. I think Fagundes will most likely be the replacement for this Galaxy team, and I thought he did really well last season as well. But still, losing seeing the likes of Painso and Puig and his in the beginning of the season, and not to mention they already sold Dejan Joveljic to Sporting KC not long ago. I mean, if they would have known this news before, they probably wouldn't have not sold Dejan Joveljic. But still, yeah, this is a big blow for this Galaxy team, and this is where I would not be surprised in the beginning of the season they might have a bit of a setback because that attack, it's definitely started to kind of dismantle a bit, whether it's injuries or just them selling off pieces. And as I said, and as I will talk about later in this news of the week episode, there's a certain member of this Galaxy team is very unhappy when it comes to this situation the Galaxy are going to be facing heading into this season. Now, moving on in the next news, so Apple TV has announced that they will actually have to they will set to launch their app on Android today. So this is something that's been asked for a lot of Android user. When exactly Apple TV Plus is coming to Android? Now, apparently they said it's going to happen today. And if you're an Android user, let me know in the comments below if this indeed is going to be true that they have launched today. But overall, this has been long overdue. I mean, it's been something that's kind of crippled in terms of people that have Android device that they can't really watch MLS season pass on their phone because Apple TV doesn't support Android device. But it looks like that is going to come to an end, and now at least a lot of these Android users don't have to just simply need a TV or even a computer to watch their favorite team play simply because unfortunately they have an Android phone. Speaking of phone, T-Mobile and Metro customer user will get MLS Season Pass for free, and it's gonna be up for free to redeem until February 18th. So if you're a T-Mobile or a Metro customer, well, now's the time to try to redeem your MLS season pass. I love the fact that T-Mobile and Metro is started to offer season pass for free again. That was not the case last season as well. This season it looks like it's the case again, and hopefully that does mean the subscription will will be up again. I mean, the subscription definitely is still pretty good because as long as Messi and friends is still with this in this league and with Inter Miami, the subscription is going to be there. I am a little worried once Messi and friends does leave Miami and leave this league. How I wonder how the subscription. I think it's probably going to be a bit of a hit, and this is where we might once again have the discussion of did MLS did blown a big opportunity to really advertise this league to the neutral or even the general public or even the casual fans. I wouldn't say neutral, but more like casual fans of really get more interest toward their league and even get more interest in terms of their hometown town club heading uh, into the near future once Messi does eventually move on from Inter Miami. Now, FIFA have also announced that they are going to slash Club World Cup ticket prices, and this, of course, is due to the fact that the lack of sale heading into the summer tournament is definitely evident, and this is not a big surprise. I mean, I think everybody saw this coming with the way that if you charge people like that amount of money, I mean, there are some tickets on the website that most of the tickets are like upper bowl, but they're still charging people like $100 or $200 to attend. That is way too much money for those games, and I know a part of that is trying to use that as a cash cow because the tournament is playing in the U.S. I feel like anytime when a major tournament is playing in the U.S., the inflation just goes up completely, and I wonder what's going to happen in terms of the World Cup prices heading into next year as well. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. It might be the most expensive World Cup to attend in recent memory, but I think the fans have been spoken. They're going to say they do not like the fact that tickets are incredibly high in terms of these games, and they're not going to attend it if it's keep that way. And the other thing I will say about the Club World Cup as well, I think the hype around this after when they announced the schedule, it feels like I haven't really seen as much marketing around that, and that I think we might continue to see that as the tournament begin, but it just feels like I don't know. I just don't know if this is kind of a tournament that every American fans are going to be really excited about, and that I know FIFA is trying to really promote this tournament and make it a big deal. But how much is this just going to be looking like a glorified preseason tournament, as what we always see with European team when they come to the U.S. for their preseason tour and charging people incredibly expensive tickets just to get a chance to see team don't really play their strongest squad. And that's also the next big question. Is these European team going to take this competition seriously? I mean, if they do take it seriously, then the price that fans will pay, I think it's definitely justified. But if they're not going to take this seriously, and if this is they're just going to play like their second or third team in this tournament, well, we might as well just have a glorified summer tournament as well. And yeah, again, that's why I think a lot of fans are thinking that that's kind of how this tournament is going to be treated like. It feels like it's just a glorified preseason tournament for a lot of these European team that is, and there's no doubt that again, when you charge people that much amount of money, fans, for a long time, I know a lot of fans in the U.S. they stick up to the high price that they have to pay to attend these preseason friendly, but it's getting to a point where we're starting to see lately that fans have clearly been spoken. If you charge people way too much money, they're simply not going to show up and not going to interest. And when that, of course, happened, then yeah, you have to slash your tickets because if the demand is not there, there's no point keeping the price of the tickets as high as what we see with the Club World Cup heading into this season. Now, the Leeds Cup schedule has also been released yesterday, and we now know exactly which team or which MLS team is going to be playing against which Liga MX team. And there are going to be some Liga MX team just like last season are going to get a chance to pick stadiums around the US that's kind of act as their home base. Now, for some teams that could be a good thing, especially for Club America. That is, I mean, if they pick a city that has a very big Hispanic, especially Mexican population, they're gonna sell out the stadium with a lot of their home fans. But for some sort of team that might finish relatively high, it might not really make a big difference. Other than some MLS team will have to travel to a so-called neutral venue or the home base of the Liga MX team to play in those games. I do feel like in the future, I really want the Leagues Cup to potentially be played in Mexico because I feel like this tournament, as long as if it's not played in Mexico, it just feels like it's once again looked like a glorified cash cow kind of tournament, as I've said before, and it also doesn't help the fact that the Leagues Cup, there's been a lot of people that's been ridiculed this tournament mainly because it's a tournament that clearly kills the U.S. Open Cup and last season we saw how much damage it took to a point where the attendance for a lot of these Leagues Cup games was really bad. Now, moving on in terms of the next news. So the New England Revolution, they have named Gillette as their new jersey sponsor as well. So they ditched UHC as their previous jersey sponsor. And I wonder, is there anything to do with what happened a couple of months ago? I mean, I don't really need to mention too much about that detail. I'm pretty sure you know what happened in that situation. But yeah, Gillette is definitely a much better jersey sponsor besides of a healthcare, even though I'm pretty sure MLS will be happy the fact that a team decided to not name their jersey sponsor after health insurance or even finance as well. That feels like it's kind of a theme for a lot of team that is naming their jersey sponsor for health insurance or health company that is. But Gillette is definitely a good jersey sponsor, and especially with the way that the stadium that New England plays is is also called Gillette Stadium. And then finally, the last news I'm going to talk about involving Mayo Yoshida, who have recently expressed his frustration toward the MLS roster rule. And he's not the only Galaxy player to do so. I think Marco Royce also expressed the frustration about the roster rule as well. And this is not the first time I've seen players that have expressed their frustration as well. And in the case of Yoshida, he said that he's not happy the fact that even though he did resign with the Galaxy, he's not happy that he has to take a bit of a pay cut in order to comply with the cap. The Galaxy is almost slam up against the cap right now. That is kind of the reason why they had to sell Dejan Joveljic, because with the way that he's no longer considered to be a U22 initiative kind of player, his contract is going to count according to the cap. And as I said, they just have no space whatsoever in terms of the cap space to bring on Dejan Joveljic. And that's why, Maya Yoshida is not happy because it feels like it really hamstring a lot of these teams to keep some of the best talent within the league. And in some way, I definitely agree with him. And I agree with a lot of players and even fans that have criticized in terms of the salary cap not being high enough. I do think it still need to be higher than it is right now. I mean, I know the current CBA, the salary cap is going to continue to increase, but I don't think it's enough to a point where I feel like some teams could really benefit the salary cap to increase to a point where they can retain their talent and still be a dominant team. And I know the argument to what the certain cap situation right now is mainly because they want to keep the league as uh as close as possible, and also they want parity in this league. Well, here's the thing: you want parity, but at the same time, if you want these teams to compete in big competition like the CONCACAF Champions Cup, or you want MLS to really be on the map and really consider to be one of the more talk about league, you need to think about raising the cap to a point where teams can actually retain their roster and continue to compete in multiple competition. Because the fact that that's been this has been an issue that we've been talking about for really a long time right now, and even with the salary cap being increased, and even with these new roster rule, just don't think it's enough. I do think that they need to increase the salary cap. I know some people also say just get rid of the salary cap. I don't think MLS is ever going to do that. I think that, again, the fear to get rid of the salary cap means that teams are going to go on a reckless spending spree. And we know what happened when it comes to the NASL back in the 80s when they did that, and how that absolutely collapsed the league itself. And also, not to mention, the league really want parity. That if the salary cap is gone, so much for parity in this league. That is, all the big team is probably going to be outspent, and we're going to see the same situation that kind of plagued the MLB right now, where the MLB doesn't have a salary cap, and the Dodgers are basically simply buying every one right now to create a super team and dominate for years, and people are absolutely furious about that. I feel like that could be the same case again for MLS, and that's why MLS is basically avoid doing that. But instead, again, raising the salary cap and even raising the salary floor as well. That's another thing I think could be a key factor to help teams to keep their best talent and keep the league competitive as well. Because again, the other argument in terms of why a lot of owners want the salary cap to remain where it is right now is because that gives some of these small team and some owners that are a little cheap when it comes to the spending and excuse that, well, we can still become cheap and still compete in the bigger stage as well. And that's again another thing that could be a negative toward the current roster rule and also the current salary cap situation, where it really kind of encouraged that teams may not even need to think about how spending too much money and still be competitive. So yeah, overall, like I said, it is going to be something that I think MLS will continue to work on. I mean, they're getting the feedback from fans about the current roster rule, and we're seeing now that there are definitely much more improvement for that compared to previous season as well. And I think it's just going to continue as we go along, where the not only the salary cap is going to continue to increase, but also I think MLS will think about creating more flexibility in terms of the roster, and also the flexibility of how teams can keep their talent without losing it simply because they're just completely slammed up against the cap. But there we have it. That is pretty much it in terms of the news of the week episode. As always, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these news, and if there's any news I didn't mention here on the board, let me know in the comments below as always. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure to leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.